Hey guys, welcome to Sports Talk Live. We got NBA, NFL, and rants as always. Stay tuned. Sports Talk Live is next. Hello and welcome to Sports Talk Live. I am your host, Colin Malliott. Sitting alongside me, we have two wonderful analysts. Ken Stowe, how you doing, Ken?
Doing great. Ready to talk a lot of sports today.
And Aaron Gallo, how you doing?
Doing all right. Could do a little better if the weather was nicer, but...
We have a great show coming up for you guys. We're going to be talking about NBA, NFL, specifically the Nfc North in a little bit. We have rants at the end, as always, so make sure you stay tuned for the whole thing. Starting off, we're talking about the NBA. And so we're in this time of a lot of, I feel like, transition in the NBA. There's a lot of young players that are really making names for themselves. And about 5 years down the line, I feel like we could have an entirely new crop of superstars in the NBA. We see a couple of them, such as Devin Booker, Giannis, these really young talents. What do you guys see in the next 5 years as a post-LeBron, perhaps, NBA? What are you seeing as sort of the future?
Right, I think you kind of hit right on it. You know, LeBron, he's been the face of the league for a really long time. You know, and a lot of people who are around our age, a little younger, they really don't know, you know, who else can really take over as this, you know, best player in the NBA. So just some names, you kind of hit it right on the head. Devin Booker, Giannis. Another name, kind of a sneakier name. I think it's a name that a lot of people kind of ignore. I think Kristaps Porzingis. Honestly, he's kind of like the unicorn of basketball right now. I think he's a guy who could really surprise the league. You know, he's super tall. He's over 7 feet tall. He can shoot the lights out. You know, his problem right now, something to develop his game. His problem right now is he takes a lot of mid-range jumpers. And he can because he's a foot taller than people guarding him. You know.
How do you think he's going to bounce back from the ACL?
Right, big guy.
They need the knees.
Coming down hard on the knees. Yeah. You need your knees. I think, you know, with the way that, especially the way that medicine today, you know, you look back 10, 15 years ago, big injuries happen. And you know, it's a lot less common. It's a lot less common to come back. Exactly, career enders. I think Kristaps will come back, and I think he'll be better than ever. I think he's a generational talent. I'm really big on Kristaps Porzingis if you can't tell. But I'm going to send it to you, Aaron.
I think that Kristaps will be a good player. I do, but I think that Giannis Antetokounmpo, Milwaukee Bucks zone, Wisconsin zone, is primed to take over as the best player in the league. Yeah. His numbers this year have already shown 27, 10, and 5. As a 23-year-old man, that's pretty outstanding and tremendous. His ability to just transition down the court effortlessly, I feel like we are constantly seeing different highlights of him dunking, you know, just dominating the competition. So I think Giannis. Yeah.
Giannis. I would definitely have to agree with that. I almost feel like Giannis is almost in that upper superstar tier at this point and still has so much more time to go in his career. But so we're still talking about superstars. Moving on now to specifically the MVP consideration. We have a couple names that I feel like we're going to be hearing. I'm not gonna say words for you. But who are you guys seeing as the MVPs this year in the NBA?
Right. So I think Anthony Davis is a name. He's in there. Definitely. I think he's in the conversation. I don't think he's necessarily going to win it. I think he's, you know, more in the realm of the last question we just asked. So I think it really comes down to two players. He is a dark horse, but I think it comes down to two players: James Harden and LeBron James. You know, and we're looking at stats. Harden 31, 9 and 5. LeBron 27, 9 and 8. I'll just send it to you. I think everybody knows my kind of stance on it, at least right here. I'll send it to you, Aaron, and then I'll respond.
Yeah. All right. So I'm a big Harden believer. He's averaging 31, 5, and 9, as you just mentioned. Most points in the league. He's third in assists and 5 rebounds, of course. His team has the #1 record in the league, and I know a lot of people are upset about, oh, the best player on the best team. Well, you have to look at what James Harden has done this year. Their team is #1 in offensive rating of all time, in all of history. It's better than the '97 Bulls and last year's Warriors team. He's also leading the league in player efficiency rating, a stat that a lot of LeBron fans love to talk about.
Right.
Free throws. A lot of people knock James Harden for his getting to the line. They say, oh, he gets too many.
He's great at drawing fouls. He's great at it.
If free throws were eliminated this year, James Harden would still lead the league in points per game, just beating out LeBron, 22.7 to 22.1. They also have the #10 defensive rating in the league, compared to the atrocity of the Cleveland Cavaliers defense.
Right. Well, and now I'm gonna jump in a little.
Go ahead.
I think when we're talking about defense, I think it's tough. It's really tough to like really thoroughly compare, how bad the Cavs have been at defense, especially now that they've done these trades. They look a lot younger, more athletic, better defensively. I think that's a misleading stat, because I think now their defense is much better than it was pre-trade deadline. Now I'll just say this: with the defense being so bad, they're still the #3 team in the East. LeBron, we're talking about value right now. They're on a great team. Talking about James Harden, he's on a great team, and we're talking about value. Most valuable player.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say right now, I think if LeBron James is off of this team, and I'm going to say this, off of this team of losers.
Of losers.
If he isn't on that team is not in the playoff considerations.
Yes, we can go hypotheticals all day, but we have to look at real stats, and we have to look at the actual season. We have to judge it by what is going on right now, and that's the Cavs are in 3rd place in a way less tougher conference in the Eastern Conference compared to the West, which controls teams like Anthony Davis, like you just mentioned, the Pelicans, obviously the Warriors, the reigning champs with Kevin Durant, and they're ahead of them. They're #1 with Chris Paul missing time. And also, not this stud team around him, as you say. I think that James Harden has really moved up, and I think he's the #1 contender for MVP.
So we've talked a little bit about the state of the Cavs in Houston. We were talking about their defense necessarily, how it factors into the MVP consideration. But besides that, some of these major teams, so we're going to be talking about the Cavs, Houston, Golden State, Boston. Who do you guys see as the strongest team? Who do you think has some flaws? Who would you just like to comment on?
So I can go first.
Yeah, please.
So I'm going to go with the Warriors, obviously. They're a very strong team. But I'd love to see the Rockets come out of the West this year. I think they're just on a hot streak like no other. James Harden has this team ready to go and ready to win. And I think he's going to bring that into the playoffs with fierce energy and just a fierce crowd behind him and a new movement to bring the Rockets to 1st place in this league.
Right, and this is my thing. This is my thing. If we're going to talk about West, I'll talk about East. I'll talk about West really briefly, though. If we're going to talk about West, let's be real. The Golden State Warriors are going to come out of the West. This is just kind of, you're talking about best record. The Warriors are not focused on going 73-9. They've done that. Been there, done that. Okay. There's something to be said about when teams win, and they win a lot in the regular season specifically. They oftentimes, they've done this for a long time. LeBron's a great example. The New York Yankees, another great example. They win a lot, and then they underperform in the regular season, and then they really turn it on toward the end of the season and in the playoffs. And I think that's something that Golden State's going to do, and I think Golden State is definitely the team to beat in the West. And you already know my opinion on the Cavs.
So right now, lastly, an East prospect, who do you think is coming out of the East then?
Right. I definitely think Cleveland is coming out of the East. I think you'd be crazy to bet against LeBron.
Okay.
I think
that's how I feel too. I feel like you'd be crazy to bet against LeBron. I do believe he's an immense talent in the East. And I would love to see Kyrie do it because I'm a huge Kyrie fan. I'm a huge Mamba mentality, and I think that Kyrie's like kind of Kobe's understudy.
Yeah.
But I think that I would love to see that, but I think that it's going to be LeBron this
They
year.
don't have the offense.
Yeah.
Not yet. They're a Gordon Hayward away from contending.
So, speaking of LeBron, I feel like in every sports show of all time, they have to cover this topic, and we set aside a few minutes specifically for it. Because I know you can go all day on it, Ken, but we're gonna do the ultimate question: MJ versus LeBron.
Right.
So, Aaron, why don't you start off with who you would say? And I'm hoping we can get some dissenting opinions in this, but we'll see.
So, I'm Michael Jordan till the day I die. He's the greatest player. Until I'm proven wrong, he's the greatest player to ever play the game. Nobody has ever dominated like he has. When he's in the league, he went 6 for 6 for championships. LeBron 3 and 5. We'll talk about that later.
Right.
He's led the league in scoring when he was in the league 10 times compared to just LeBron's 1. In the amount of time that Jordan has spent in the league, he had more points than LeBron. He's a 3-time steal leader compared to LeBron's 0. 1-time defensive player of the year compared to LeBron's 0. 9-team first team all defense compared to LeBron's 3. And also a 5-time MVP compared to LeBron's 4 MVPs.
Right. Now I'm just
we're
gonna
talking specifically numbers. Is basically.
Well, we can go more into it, but
I'm gonna respond. We're talking about best player, right? Yeah. We're not talking about most accomplishments. Okay.
Greatest player of all.
That's my first. Now, first player, LeBron James, first player in the NBA history, 30,000, 8,000, and 8,000.
That's statistics. That's accomplishment.
I understand. It's an accomplishment. 36 players who have half of that in the history of the NBA. There's 36 players who have 15,000, 4,000, 4,000. All Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers. I think he'll end his career close to 40, 10, and 10, just because like he's not slowing down. All right, there's something to be said about longevity. I think you do it longer. I think that's impressive. You look at Tom Brady; he's done it longer. I think longevity is really important, and I think there's definitely something to be said about that. Now, 6 and 6, I get it. I understand the argument 6 and 6. I'll just say this. Are we saying that losing in the first round of the playoffs is greater than, you know what I'm saying? Because Michael Jordan lost in the first round of the playoffs.
I get that.
And LeBron hasn't. Now I have one more thing for you. I think the 6 and 6 is a little overrated. This is why. I understand now people are probably throwing things at their screen. How can you say that that's overrated? This is why. This is why. The NBA was in a transition state. Right? They had 4 expansion teams added to the NBA during the Bulls' run. The talent was diluted. The talent was diluted. Draft picks were spread apart. Talent was diluted. Okay, who did he have to go against? The Boston Celtics were on their downfall. The Detroit Pistons were not quite there. Okay, he beat Magic Johnson. He beat Magic Johnson.
One of the greatest players of all time.
Right, and then the next year he retired and was diagnosed with AIDS. Okay.
That doesn't have anything to do with
I'm just saying, like, it was toward the end of his run as well. He beat Clyde Drexler, underrated, great player, not on the same level. LeBron's beaten Dirk, or he's gone against Dirk.
He's lost.
He lost. He's gone against Dirk. He's gone against Tim Duncan. He's gone against the greatest regular season team of all time, and beat them.
If you look back and you say that Tim Duncan doesn't stack up to Larry Bird in terms of accolades, I think.
Right. But he beat the Celtics at the end of their run. This is toward the end of.
Same with the Spurs towards the end of the run. It was a young Kawhi, but it was an old Tony Parker, Manu, and Tim Duncan. Yes, he beat. Right. Yes, he beat the Warriors.
Yep.
He did beat the greatest team in regular season history. Yes, 73-9. Well, their record is that. Right. It's up to debate. I think that the greatest team in regular season history is the 95-96 Bulls.
And then he also beat Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook.
That's a great team, but
I feel like we can almost go the entire rest of the show on just MJ versus LeBron. We're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to check out some WMCM promos. Stay tuned. There's more to come.
Brings you a weekly student newscast. Important news. Movie critiques. Weather forecasts. Sports highlights. And local interviews. UWL's own WMCM, run by the students, for the students. Every Thursday at 4:30 on Campus Channel 200 and Charter Channel 989. Are you a movie fanatic?
Tune in on WMCM TV's Screening Room, Tuesdays at 2:45 or 4:30. You can watch on Channel 200 and Charter 989. See you on Tuesdays for Screening Room.
Welcome back to Sports Talk Live. Colin Malliott, Ken Stowe, Aaron Gallo. We've been talking NBA. We had a very spirited debate right before our commercial break there. But we're going to be moving on a little bit. Hopefully it's something a little less inflammatory. Right. We're going to be moving on to NFC North. So we got the NFL is in off season right now. I feel like I love the NFL because I feel like there's always a brand new slate. As far as Cleveland and teams like New England, we always have them near the top, the bottom. But especially with the NFC North, we see a lot of power from top to bottom.
Turnover,
you see a lot of teams making moves, and I'm just wondering what do you guys think? We'll start off right now with who's your strongest team right now going into next season?
Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay Packers?
Yep.
You
strongest
think so?
team going. Any team with Aaron Rodgers on it in his prime, which I think he still is, 34 years old, that's not too old for a quarterback, is the best team in the NFL. If we can shore up, if the Green Bay Packers, not we, if they could shore up the defensive line in the draft or through free agency, like with Muhammad Wilkerson, I know there's been talks, and the defensive backs, get Aaron Rodgers a defense so he doesn't have to completely win the game for his team, which he has done several times, which he has proved to us that he can win a game by himself.
Yeah.
If we can get a short-up defense in this offseason, Packers are the team to beat this year.
So Packers third place at the end of last season. Just a reminder for our watchers. So 7-9, a losing record, and you still think they can take it over?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Well, Rodgers was hurt the whole year, so.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, what do you got, Kenny?
Well, I'm a big, this is kind of creating another little debate point, I think. I'm a big Vikings fan.
Yeah.
And I also think that the Minnesota Vikings have one of the most talented rosters in the NFL.
Yeah.
I
almost
think,
made it to the Super Bowl
exactly.
last season.
That was really disappointing, too. They have a couple problems, obviously. One of the biggest issues in the NFL that you can have as an NFL team is not knowing your quarterback position. I think that especially if the Minnesota Vikings sign a guy like a Kirk Cousins, who's a slightly above average QB, I think that they are definitely a contender, and I think that they're definitely the team to beat in the NFC North. I don't think that there's any reason to believe that this 13-3 team is going to slow down or anything. Go ahead.
I tell you, would they have been 13-3 and have been such a great team had Rodgers stayed healthy?
Well, I mean, so they only played the Packers twice.
Yeah.
Okay, so the worst you could be, because you beat them twice, is 11-5, right? Theoretically.
Yeah. Okay, I'm saying, like, would they be viewed as such a great team if Rodgers was still in the league this whole season?
I think so, because this is why. Like I said, you're at least going 500. You got to admit, you're at least going 500 against this Packers team. I think that if Aaron doesn't go down in that first game, Minnesota still wins that game. I think that they were manhandling them up front. They were winning at different phases in the front line, in the secondary, you know what I mean? They're just more talented. And I think you have a great point. Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL. Most talented, I'll say. Most talented quarterback in the NFL. However, Minnesota, in my opinion, wins at every single position battle other than quarterback. Every one. Offensive line was much improved. Defense, there's not even debate. Receivers, I think we've seen now how exposed that receiving core is. So that's just my point on the Minnesota versus Green Bay debate.
I was going to say, if you have one last rebuttal before we move on to Lions and Bears?
I'll just go with Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
The GOAT. The GOAT.
All right. So we talked a little bit about who we think are the two most powerful teams in the NFC North. Definitely going to be a tight race, I think, going into the next season. What about these bottom two teams, the Lions and the Bears? Lions finishing with a better record than the Packers last season, second place in the NFC North, and the Bears down at 5-11 in last place. So we usually see them, I feel like, almost on the bottom, kind of, at least the Lions, every single year. There's a lot of turnover. What do you guys think as far as Lions and Bears? Strengths, weaknesses. Can they pull one out on the Packers and the Vikings this season?
I think the Lions definitely can. I think they have they have a really talented roster. They really
Stafford's
do.
A gamer.
Stafford is a baller. The dude balls out. I think that he's definitely the answer at the QB position. He just hasn't had a lot of help.
No help.
Honestly.
Ever
since Calvin left, exactly. Yeah. I think what we're about to see. They have to shore up that defense a little bit better. Offensive line wise, they need less holds. They led the NFL, or maybe they were second in the NFL in holding penalties, which just ruins drives, in my opinion.
New coach though too.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we're about to see defensively if it was Matt Patricia. How much of the defense for New England for all these years was Matt Patricia? You know, because Bill Belichick's a defensive guy. We're about to see this year, when we see how good the Lions defense is, the improvements they make on defense. We're about to see how much of a difference maker Matt Patricia can be on the defensive side of the ball.
And with the Bears, I think they're going to be a bottom feeder again for this season, but I think that they have a bright future in Trubisky. I think it was pretty stupid of them to sign Mike Glennon last year, and they showed that it was by releasing him recently. Quick shout out to Matt Forte, who just retired recently. He's a longtime Bear. But just want to give a quick shout out to him. He's a great player.
Right.
But yeah, the Bears' future I think is coming up. They have a strong defense. They got some good players on the wings.
They're the best bad team in the NFL.
I think you can. I think that is a very, very good.
Them or the Niners.
Yeah, with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
Yeah. So our last, if you guys could give me your rundown, top to bottom. We just right before the break. What do we have for NFC North standings? The last list. What do we got?
I'm going to go Vikings at the 1 spot just because of the talent. I'm going to go Green Bay. Very close race. Very close race.
Maybe
right behind.
Games,
it maybe
home and away,
1-1. That's definitely something that I foresee. Lions at that 3rd spot, and I think that they might be nipping right behind until the last couple games of the season. And Bears at the 4 spot. But I do agree with Aaron. I think they have a very bright future.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers 1. I'll go Vikings 2. I also agree it's going to be a close race. I think it's going to come down to that last game, as it usually does. I'm saying Lions 3, and I think that the Lions will be sneaky. I think they're going to catch a win or two from the Vikings or the Packers. And I think the Bears, once again, will be a high draft pick.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. We always see, I still feel like the NFC North is, every single year, one of the most difficult conferences to break out of. You see a lot of wild cards coming out of the NFC just because they have, or the NFC North, I should say, they have that great record. They usually have two or three teams that are really, really playoff caliber teams. So it's going to be a very, very interesting season coming up. We got more NFL talk after the break. We're going to take another look at some WMCM promos. Stay tuned.
For the fun side of sports, from debates to memes to highlights, don't miss Hot Shot Sports, Tuesday afternoons on WMCM on Campus 200 and Charter 989.
Turn to the second one. Okay.
WMCM's hottest game show.
Write down your wager on your whiteboard now.
That is correct.
I'm in charge here. I'm going to give the board to Greta.
No, that is cheating.
Play along with us Tuesday afternoons at 2:45 and 4:30 on Campus Channel 200 or Charter Channel 989. Remember, stay sassy with Get Classy.
Thank you guys for tuning in to Hot Shot Sports. Excuse me, Sports Talk Live. We have been talking NFL for the last little bit. We just covered our kind of NFC North standings, our title contenders for the NFC North Championship, and we're going to be looking into our way too early NFL Super Bowl contenders, our top threes. For this upcoming season. Aaron, why don't you start off?
All right.
We'll just go for list them right away, and then we'll have debates. How about that?
All right, so I'm going Patriots, as they've always been a contender. They have to be thrown in there. I'm going Steelers, but pending the Le'Veon situation. If Le'Veon Bell stays with the Steelers, I'm keeping him in there. But if he's out of the Steelers situation, I'm going with the Rams. And my last and final, and I know you're going to love this one, it's the Packers. So.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
All right, Ken, what do you have for yours?
Honestly, I think it's much of the same. Just because, we have no reason to think anything else. Steelers, Patriots. Steelers doesn't matter to me, Le'Veon Bell or not. Wow. I think the Steelers are very talented. And you're going to love this one, Minnesota Vikings. They were almost there. I think they get there this year.
So you guys still think Patriots, there's not going to be any sort of sophomore slump, nothing like we saw with their last championship where they were a little bit slow coming out of the gate? You think the Patriots are still going to be the top dogs as far as NFL is considered?
The Patriots are the standard of the NFL. Yeah. I think they've proven that.
They're like the Spurs.
Right, right. They are.
Every year.
Except even more dominant.
Yeah, I would agree with
that. I think that the Patriots are always going to be the team to beat until Bill Belichick and or Tom Brady leaves. That combo together is nasty. And I think that every single year, we watch the NFL in September and we think, the Patriots go 1-3 or 2-2.
Yeah.
I talked about this last semester on one of these shows in September. So we always say, oh no, sky is falling for New England. And
perhaps this is the year that everything falls apart for them.
Statistically, it's their worst month.
Yeah.
And I really think it's they're just getting used to each other. They are not necessarily the most talented team. They're just the smartest. And I think that New England is the standard, and I think Minnesota just has one of the most talented rosters in the NFL.
Yeah, so since you just did a great point of talking about the Patriots, I'm going to go on the Rams, which is kind of my wild
Rams,
right.
Yeah.
They really outperformed what a lot of people thought they were going to do this year with the young coach, Sean McVay, 31 now. I don't know if he's 31 or 32. Sure. It doesn't really matter.
Young.
Doing well for himself.
He's young. They just picked up Marcus Peters, who's top 3 corner in the league. Young star. I think he's only going to make this team better with the offense of Jared Goff coming into his second year after having a breakout year. Sammy Watkins, he didn't have that great of a year, but I think he's going to bounce back. Todd Gurley having an almost MVP caliber season, almost winning the MVP, but Brady beating him out. And then with Aaron Donald as a perennial defensive star in that front line.
Dude's a monster.
Yeah,
I think that the Rams are a sleeper team to watch for actual Super Bowl contenders.
All right, so we also heard Packers and Vikings. If you can say, let's just do one sentence why the Vikings will take that, say, third spot over the Packers, and then Aaron vice versa. One sentence.
All right. Best defense in the NFL and Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins. Interesting.
I'm calling it right now.
All right, what do you got? Your sentence.
I'm going to say, go watch the Packers versus Cowboys game, divisional playoff of, not this year, obviously, but last year. And that is why.
Go back 2 years, and that's why.
Aaron Rodgers.
All right, so we're done with NFL. I think we covered just about everything that we could as far as the off seasons is considered. We have the draft coming up in a few weeks. So you'll have to tune back into WMCM for some of these post-draft shows. But it's time now, the world famous rant section of Sports Talk Live. So we're gonna start with Kenny. Let's hear your 40 seconds on the clock or so. What do you got for your rant?
So I'm going to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. I think, I have a lot to say. I'm going to say it as quickly as I can. A lot of people are questioning all of the money that he's getting, all of the guaranteed money. I think it's a smart move for San Francisco. Here's why. He takes one of the worst teams in the NFL last year, takes them 5-0. That's not a fluke. This dude is another guy. He can ball. He can ball out. He's a really good player. People forget, what did Kyle Shanahan do with Matt Ryan? A good quarterback, not amazing, not great. He made him an MVP candidate. And I just think that that's much of the same with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to do much of the same with him. And I just think that, in a few months, we're going to see Kirk Cousins, we're going to see Aaron Rodgers, we're going to see Drew Brees, these big deals. They're going to dwarf Jimmy Garoppolo's numbers or his contract, And I think it's a smart move to get him signed beforehand.
All right, moving on. Aaron, what do you got for us?
So I'm switching it from the NFL back to the NBA, like the beginning of the show. We need to put some respect on Damian Lillard. This man, I don't know if anybody saw the highlight. Did you guys see the highlight?
Yeah.
Last night, 4 for 4 from 3 with 4 minutes left in the game against the Lakers. Just completely took over. This is a man who's been disrespected for years and years, being left off the All-Star team. Wasn't believed to win Rookie of the Year. He won Rookie of the Year. He just keeps doubting. People keep doubting him, and he just keeps proving them wrong. He's averaging almost 27 points a game and almost 7 assists this year. He's really taken over this year. He's established himself as a star on this team, and the Trailblazers are up to number 3 in the West. Number 3 in the West, right behind the Rockets and Warriors. So Damian Lillard is the new star of this league, and he's here to stay.
All right, fellas. Absolutely great talk today. I think you guys both put down a lot of really good points. You have to check us out. We're here in the WMCM studio Tuesdays. Catch us Sports Talk Live, a different time. Thanks for watching.